Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. This is an amazing day. It's been a long time in coming, and I'm thrilled to be here. So grateful that we have, even during this COVID period, that we have so many great people who can join us live today and those who are joining us via Zoom. First of all, I want to welcome you all, and I especially want to welcome our special guests. We have two chairmen here representing their tribes. This project would not be possible without the tribes here in Arizona, the 22 tribal nations. And we want to pay respect to each of those tribes with the dedication that's about to take place. My name's Levi Esquerra, and I just started work here a couple months ago, so I'm seeing the end of a lot of great work that's been done prior to me. I want to introduce our Masters of Ceremony, Karen Francis-Begay. She will be the one who will be assisting us throughout the process. So with that, I want to welcome Karen to the stand. Thank you.
Good afternoon. As we would say in my Diné language, Yaqui. This is a special occasion to celebrate and recognize Arizona's Native nations. Walking into this space instills a great deal of pride. It's a moment to acknowledge Arizona's 22 sovereign nations, affirming a government-to-government relationship that the University of Arizona respects and values. Thank you to all who made this possible. It's my pleasure now to introduce a very special colleague and friend who will do us the honors of blessing our flag exhibit. Jesse Navarro is a governmental affairs specialist with the Tohono Nation Executive Office. Prior to this post, Jesse was the Program Coordinator Senior with the Office of Tribal Relations at the University of Arizona. So please join me in welcoming Jesse Navarro.
Skukadamchu, Anyap Jigik Jesse Navarro, Anyiki Juk Shantam, Banyakahaj and Sapoitak Amjit, Walgi Wurjukshan. Good day, everyone. My name is Jesse Navarro. I reside here in Tucson. I come from the Tohono Nation Coalfields community in the Babakiri district. And it's a privilege here to be here with you all today to do the blessing, to start off, to bless this area, but also to bless everyone here that's here today. So what we will be doing today is saying a few words in prayer, and then I will go into the Walgiwut song, the Babakiri Mountain song, and then we can continue our agenda from there. The Nathakam Creator, we ask of you to be present with us at this time. Heal us from any hurt, sorrow, concerns that we have in our souls and our minds today. Bless our families, our loved ones. Bless this area of education for our students, for our guests, for our families that walk through this area. Bless the 22 tribes of Arizona as it is represented here today. Put your blessings upon their communities, their leaderships, their lands, so that they can continue to be sovereign nations and to grow stronger. We thank you for everything you've given us, Creator. Continue to bless our hearts, our minds, and our souls so that we can continue our life and our journey on this earth. Yaqui warik no one. Ki would no one itoi ki kamaka. Basho atamacha worik tonerik tash. Kaita mohemo saponya chuatam amawa semaka. Why work no one? Why work no one? Itoi ki kamaka. Basho atamacha worka tonerik tash. Kaita mohemo saponya chuasam amawa semaka. Why work no one? Why work no one? Itoi ki kamaka. Pasho atamacha worka tonerik tash. Kaita mohemo saponya chuatam amawa semaka. Why work no one? Why work no one? Itoi ki kamaka. Pasho atamacha worka tonerik tash. Kaita mohemo saponya chuatam amawa semaka. Thank you.
So I have the distinct pleasure of introducing several of our guests who are here with us to provide remarks on the flag exhibit. Very delighted that we have representatives from our alumni group, as well as our student, faculty, and staff at the University of Arizona. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce each person right at this moment, just to avoid me coming up to the stage each time. As I introduce you, just know that as soon as the person before you speaks, it will be your turn to come up to the stage. So our first speaker is going to be John Rios. John is the Senior Program Manager of the One Stop program with the Division of Employment and Training with the Tohono Nation. John is also the president of the American Indian Alumni Club here at the University of Arizona. John will be followed by Dr. Mary Jo Tipaconic Fox. Dr. Fox is a research professor and social scientist in American Indian Studies at the University of Arizona. Her teaching and scholarly activities focus on historical and contemporary American Indian women issues, and American Indian education with an emphasis on higher education. Following Dr. Fox will be Ben Davis. Ben Davis is a fourth-year student at the University of Arizona in the College of Social and Behavioral Sciences. studying environmental studies with a minor in American Indian Studies. He is also a representative of the Tohono Student Association. And finally, we have Alejandro Higuera. Alejandro is the new communications coordinator for a University of Arizona Title V program called Familia, which stands for Forwarding Academic Mechanisms Integral to Learning in the Academy. Previously, Alejandro worked as an admissions counselor, recruiting Native American students to the University of Arizona in Southern Arizona region. So with that, I would like to call Mr. John Rios up to the stage.
Thank you, Karen, for that introduction. Skukta shapan jugit Jonathan Rios walk to Xanam Jud, Yat Eshadene, She Jonathan Rios and Shet, Twitch Eating, Shlin, Danat, and me at Bushas Chin, La She Danat Bushas Chin, Edashet She Danatum, Ado Twinale Day at Nasha, Dieta Aistin Slim. Good afternoon. My name is Jonathan Rios. I come from the Navajo and Tohono nations, and I proudly serve as the president for the American Indian Alumni. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge and recognize the ancestral lands of the Tohono Nation that this university resides on. In the same respect, I also want to acknowledge our brothers and sisters from the Pascua Yaqui tribe. Today is a significant day for our Wildcat community and our tribal nations in Arizona. Today marks the day that our 22 sovereign nations will have a place to honor their flags on the University of Arizona campus. It has been years and decades in the making, as many stakeholders in our Native American community have fought all those years to make today a reality, including our Native American alumni that have been part of that process as well. As I was writing this, I want to share a quick story from when I was a student, a transfer student from Pima College, and I came on tour here to view the campus. And I already knew I was a Wildcat before I came here, so it was part of a class. But as we came to the bookstore, they showed us the flags, and I thought how awesome it was that they shared part of their tour. Each student from each nation had their flag hung in this university, in this bookstore. As I looked for our flags, I didn't see any. And as a student, I always wondered why they would tell that story when they're sovereign citizens from our sovereign nations attending this university and their flags weren't flown here. So, as an alumni, we started to hear these same concerns on behalf of our student community. And I want to say for these past 10 years, the American Indian Alumni has worked with the bookstore, specifically the leadership here. I want to thank Mr. Frank Farias and Ms. Debbie Shively for the partnership we created with them to show our flags during Native American Heritage Month. We thank them for their support, as this was the beginning of our display of our tribal flags on campus. During this time, our tribal flags were shown on these TV screens you see throughout the bookstore all month long during Native American Heritage Month. And I want to say a couple times we got excited because we made it up on the big screen back there in the bookstore. And I want to say, although it was digital, I could sense the pride and excitement from our students as they walked taller, they walked prouder on those days that they seen their flags. And today is even more special because these flags here will be permanent and they'll be flown all year long for the rest of the year, not just during Native American Heritage Month. And I do want to say it took years of education and conversations, not only from the American Indian alumni, but many stakeholders have been involved in this process to get here today. Our students will be proud when they see their flags and be reminded how significant their tribal nations are to this university. We will be proud when our tribal leaders come to campus and they'll see how their flag flies above campus. Not just one day they come, but every day of the year. And that's the moment to be proud and excited for. We as a people know the power that our flags have, so we also look forward to the permanent display and monument of our tribal flags that our current community is also working on. And it's just as important with the University of Arizona as a land-grant institution that the U of A honors and acknowledges and works with our tribal nations. And it's just as important for the university to produce Native American graduates so that they can come back as alumni and still see their flags flying high and proud here on this campus. And I want to say today as an alumni, the U of A, President Robbins, your leadership has honored and acknowledged our Arizona tribe with these flags. Sapo, yeah. Lastly, I want to thank all those that have been a part of this process to make this happen. President Robbins, Mr. Levi Esquerra, soon to be Dr. Karen Francis-Begay, our Native American Student Affairs, our Native faculty, our staff, the American Indian alumni, and most importantly, our students. Sapo, también.
Mutawea, greetings, and thank you, Karen, for the introduction. I appreciate it. Greetings, this is a good day, and it is good to be here on this occasion to dedicate the Arizona Native Nations flag exhibit and to acknowledge the significance of the 22 Arizona Native Nations. This is especially meaningful since our university is on the traditional lands of the Tohono and the Pascua Yaqui tribe. Important because many of our students, faculty, and staff are citizens of these Native nations. Also, it is great to see the distinguished chairman from Tohono and Pascua Yaqui here. It is an honor to have you here. As a citizen of the Comanche and Cherokee nations of Oklahoma, I am pleased to live and work on your indigenous lands. Thank you. I had the pleasure of serving as Arizona's first advisor to the President for Native American Affairs, a position that came about at the request of several Arizona tribes. I enjoyed working with the tribes throughout the state on behalf of the university during my tenure. And I met some really wonderful people that continue to be friends with me to this day. But I've seen positive change continues to happen for Native Americans, students, and communities at U Arizona. When I held the position, it was a part-time position. It became a full-time position when Karen Francis-Begay was appointed, and now has developed into 2 positions. One reporting to the president and one in the provost's office. I would like to thank, Karen Francis-Begay for all the hard work she's done and continues to do on this display and in other efforts, and to wish Levi success as you start your new position. I know he will help us to continue to build meaningful relationships and collaborations with the Native nations in Arizona. The Arizona Native Nations flag exhibit recognizes and celebrates the rich history and cultures of the 22 Native nations, and is a testament to the university's commitment to the contemporary Native peoples in this state and on this campus. As a faculty member in American Indian Studies, I see more Native students from many tribes, especially from Arizona, including Benjamin Davis, who we'll hear from later, who is in my class this semester. But I also see that the students are finding their voice now and expressing their concerns. I see outreach efforts to tribes done in more respectful ways. I see initiatives to support Native students, Native faculty hired, and the establishment of the Native American Faculty Association, and most important, Native students enrolling and earning degrees at all levels. Native Heritage Month is a fitting time to acknowledge we must continue our work to improve the climate for Native students, to help them feel more welcome on campus, in and outside of the classroom, to listen to their voices, and to help them achieve educational success. To see Native cultures and Native students valued for what they contribute to our learning and our campus community. After all, Native students are citizens of their native nations, the United States, and Arizona. And Native peoples are very much a part of the past, the present, and the future of this state and this country. I hope that this display of flags will remind us of the presence and the importance of the 22 Native nations in Arizona to this university community, and that we will continue to work to make Native Americans an integrated part of the learning and living environment of Arizona. Our campus community needs to learn about and from Native Americans, especially Arizona Native Americans. And we can start with these 22 flags, learning about their meanings and the significance of each of these flags to the 22 Native nations in Arizona. Uda, thank you.
Skugdamjut, Anyan Abjugi Benjamin Davis, Anyan Wat Donatam Chakta Chichukum, Anyan Ab Wakamaja Wakchukshan. So thank you everyone. My name is Ben Davis. I am a member of the Donatam Nation. My grandpa comes from the Mississippi Band of Choctaw, and I'm a first generation citizen and student of Mexican descent on my mom's side. So yeah, I want to thank Native American Student Affairs and the committee who got all this started for inviting me to be the student voice of my peers. And it's important that I recognize that I do not represent all my students. I'm just one voice amongst a crowd of many Native students here on the University of Arizona campus. And when I look around, it makes me think of the friends that I have from every single tribal nation here that do attend the University of Arizona. Let me compose myself. And it's important that that these flags are here because each one of these tribes has land in our great state of Arizona. And I know, and I can't help but think in this moment of my Native students and peers from outside of the state, because this is one stepping stone to getting representation for our 22 tribes but it's just a stepping stone for getting that Native voice, that student voice here on campus. And it's important that those students we have large majority from like California and New Mexico, that they get their voice and their representation here on this campus, because they are an active part of our Native community here on campus. Thank you. And I would like to, and I got the honor of hold on. I have one more thing, sorry. And it seems that my story, similar to John's story, is one that is shared amongst our peers when they come onto campus. They see the flags of many nations across the world, and they see the importance of that representations of themselves, those students. So now it's important that these 22 tribes are now getting their representation. And now I had that experience of being one that said like, oh, I see the Mexican flag and that represents my mom's side, but I don't see the Tohono flag, and it's important because we are on our tribe's traditional lands. So, and I would and it's important to recognize the Pascua, Yaqui, and Tohono flags, because our campus and the Tucson community has a large population of urban O'odham and Yoeme people. So yeah, thank you for NASA and the committee for allowing me to speak and being the student representation. And I do now have the great honor of introducing Chairman of the Tohono Nation, Dr. Ned Norris. He is from Chursiak. I think I said that right. I apologize if I didn't. The Fresno Canyon community of Waragiwak district. He is serving his third term as chairman of the Tohono Nation. He previously served as the government relations for Desert Diamond Casino. And he is an alumni of the University of Arizona and did receive an honorary doctorate in 2009. So if everyone give me the pleasure of introducing Chairman Ned Norris of the Tohono Nation.
Skogi Bijuk Wisichamui. Ani Upchugik Ned Norris Jr. O Amjit Waukur Chukshan, Jurshai community. It is an honor to be here with you today to participate in this flag dedication ceremony. I wanted to just take a few minutes and talk a little bit about the autumn and our ancestors that have lived in this area since time immemorial. I also wanted to acknowledge the university's acknowledgement of the indigenous and the ancestral people and our people that have lived in this area since time immemorial. The Autumn, we have sister tribes, the Akchin Autumn in Maricopa, the Gila River Autumn, the Salt River Autumn, and the Tohono Autumn. And there's also the Hiachit Autumn. We all believe that we are descendants of the Hohokam. Those are our ancestors. And, we have, when you think about the ancestral lands of the Autumn, or if you read about it and understand it, you'll know that the ancestral lands of our people were the areas that we now call Douglas, Arizona, and southeastern part of Arizona, all the way north to the Superstition Mountains, all the way west to the Colorado River, and all the way south past what is now the International of Mexico, going as far south as Hermosillo, Mexico. And so when you think about the ancestral lands of the Autumn, and you think about what the reservation size that we have today we sit on about 2.8 million acres of reservation land, which is in no comparison when you think about the ancestral lands of the Autumn. And so I wanted to share a little bit about that historical background of our people, but also to say that, we're looking at 22 flags in this room that have been displayed and on display. And I know in realizing and hearing the other speakers that it's taken a while to accomplish this day, to accomplish the fact that we are here dedicating these flags today, but also to acknowledge that there are over 556 federally recognized tribes throughout the United States. And we need to understand that tribes are not all the same. An Indian isn't an Indian, I guess is the way I'll put it. We are all unique in our own ways. We have our own customs, our own traditions, our own language, our own ways that we do things. And we need to acknowledge that and understand that. Just because you may be Dene or Yoeme or Autumn doesn't necessarily mean that we are the same, because we're not. We are unique in many different ways. And so one of the things that I wanted to say about this acknowledgement with the flags, I think that's great. I think it's a time that has passed in being able to do this. But we want more than display. We want a seat at the table. We want to be able to sit down with the universities and not just talk about tangible kinds of things that we can see happen here on the university. We want the opportunities to sit down with the university and talk about the issues that are important to us, so that way we can work together with the university, so that we can be able to accomplish together and overcome some of the obstacles some of the issues, some of the needs that we face in tribal community. So I also wanted to acknowledge President Robbins and his efforts to establish the position that Mr. Esquerra holds today. I think that too has been something that has been long in coming. It's an opportunity for tribes to be able to have direct contact and direct relationship with the president of the University of Arizona, which hasn't always been that way. You know, I always thought to myself that Karen was that person, and that she had to go through several steps before she could reach the president of the university. Now, with Mr. Esquerra, we have that opportunity to have a voice directly with the president of the University of Arizona. So thank you, President Robbins, for making that position happen. You know, we have heard, and the students that have so eloquently expressed some of their challenges in coming to the university, but, you know, we always have to look at, you know, students that come here aren't always your typical, and maybe that wasn't the right word to use, but your typical non-native students. There are unique challenges that our students have in having to come to a university where you've got several thousands and thousands of students, and there are only one or two or less than a handful of natives that are represented here on the university. There are unique challenges that they have in being able to become the success that we all want them to be in being able to accomplish their academic program here at the university. And it's important that we understand what some of those challenges are. It's important that we understand that a lot of times many of our students are coming from a very isolated home environment, are coming from a very unique home environment, and many of our students may not have been away from home for long periods of time. And so those are the kinds of things that are unique, some of the kinds of things that are unique that I think we need to pay attention to in order for us to be able to help our students become the success that we all want them to be. And so I wanted to just share these things with you, and thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for the effort here. But let's not stop with these flags. Let's stop with having a seat at the table. Let's stop with talking. Let's start with talking with each other, and let's start with putting this into action and some of the things that we can accomplish together with tribal nations as well as the University of Arizona. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Robbins. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Amane te vote eminewe, inepo Alejandro te cachamalea. Hello everyone, my name is Alejandro Higuera, and I am a member of the Pascua Yaqui tribe, which is one of the 22 sovereign nations located here in the state of Arizona. I am honored and humbled to be speaking with all of you on this very important, kind gesture, which is the dedication of an Arizona Native Nations tribal flag exhibit. Today's dedication is important because it allows the university to publicly acknowledge the tribes of Arizona during the month of November, which is Native American and Alaskan Native Heritage Month. This also creates more opportunities for the university to improve and strengthen the relationships it has with Indigenous people. However, the month of November can be difficult to navigate because it follows two conflicting holidays. One, where a settler is celebrated as the one who discovered America, and another where Indigenous culture is often appropriated, sexualized, and mocked. Indigenous people also have to relive an exasperated fantasy where Indigenous people and settlers live among each other without any grievances. Despite the annual moments of distress, we look forward to Heritage Month because it helps strengthen our ability to educate non-Native people about who we are and to celebrate ourselves as an integral part of society through our culture, history, and contributions. Growing up, I didn't see recognition like I do today. I didn't see real Native actors playing indigenous people on the big screen. I didn't see Native people take important government office positions. And I didn't see professional sports take a stance on racist mascots. Those shifts are barely happening today. To me, this dedication is not only a reminder of our strengths, existence, and our survival, but our path to visibility. With that being said, the next speaker I'm about to introduce is a man I've known for a long time and is currently serving his 4th term for the Pascua Yaqui Tribe's Tribal Council. And it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our tribal chairman, Peter Yukipisio. Thank you.
Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. On behalf of the Pascua Yaqui tribe, all our members, we have just visited with them, the ones that are up there in heaven. When I look at the flags up where they're at right now, they're a little bit closer to where our ancestors are at. Sometimes when you look at pictures of Americana and you look at those members that hoisted the flag and they didn't want to let it fall, the United States flag, this is what you essentially did to all the flags of all nations and raised them up a little higher. We have walked this wonderful planet, this land, for thousands of years, just like the O'odham, the Apache, the Navajo, Cherokee. When I think of these lands before they were the United States, they were called Nueva Española by somebody that thought they discovered it. But yet, there was already people there. When I look at the 1700s in the east, thriving communities in the west of pueblos, of O'odham, Apache, Yaqui, were already thriving, were their own systems, whether they were housing, they were health, everything, medicinal medicines. I once talked to a lady that told me, what I'm gonna cure you with is more than 5,000 years old. And it had been handed down to her by her family. I come from a family that dates in these valleys before 500. It's hard to imagine who was first and who was last. And once I joked with Jim Griffith, good friend of all of us. He said, Pedro, he says, in these valleys, there are many more arrows in those animals that lived at your time and before. And I said, it was both Apache, O'odham, and also Yaqui that killed those animals to survive. That's the way I see it. It's a partnership. These institutions, like the U of A, have made us a little bit more at the table, slowly but surely. And I will tell you a story that my father taught me a long time ago. I said, I had worked in the field all day. We only earned $1.50 a day from 3 in the morning to noontime, picking cotton, sweating all day. We used to get up at 3 in the morning to get the bus to go to the Abra Valley, the Marana community. Our families lived there too, all the way from Scottsdale, Guadalupe, Hightown, Marana, Casa Grande, Eloy Coolidge, Old Pascua right here off of Grant, and the reservation, which is the newest part. But we all worked hard to help towns, cities become what they are now. The canals of Scottsdale would not be possible if not for the Yaqui. They were the hardest working crew to forge a new Scottsdale for that part of Phoenix. When I think of what my father told me a long time ago, and I told him, Dad, I have a little money. let's go to the movies. And he said, we're not allowed. I said, Dad, you're living in the past. In the little town of Coolidge where he used to live and work as a boy, there was a sign that said, whites only. There was a sign that said, blacks. There was a sign that said, animals. And I never got it. Just like Ned said and everybody else, we need a place at the table. The horse and the dog had a better place than we as Native American people. And it's changing little by little, because some of those ranchers love that horse. That horse plowed for them, took them to places. It was a quicker way of life. And we've come a long way. Now we have students on every single tribe trying to succeed, trying to provide for themselves. And we support you all, every single nation, whether you're from here or from a sovereign nation abroad. Come to the U of A's, educate yourself, so that someday you're not questioned as to why you're doing what you're doing, teaching. The credibility comes with sometimes a plaque or a scroll. And for us, it comes from your spirit and it comes from your heart. That can never, ever be replaced by anything. We now have more tribal members in our tribe that are doctors, lawyers, teachers, and thanks to you, the institutions and the way of learning this way. There's still another way of learning, our traditional cultural ways. We have many, 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 thousands, I would say, that participate in every single community throughout the year in our traditional ceremonies. Tribal members never forget who you are and where you came from. Your ancestors are looking at you from up there, and they're proud of you that you're learning this way, institutional learning, they used to call it. But you must learn and retain your cultural way of being and learn that. Every single year, there are more than 50 to 100 trucks and cars in my village where I gather wood, I gather hoofs, I gather leather, and I teach these young men how to make traditional ceremonial regalia. Sometimes they accuse me of having a gang. It's not a gang, it's a big family, and those traditions have been passed down from our ancestors of our way of celebrating life. We are met today with this foreign virus that has decimated the United States. It was that way when they came in boats thousands of years ago, hundreds of years. We are not used to foreign viruses, pandemics. And I pray to God that we learn how to cope with this and we beat this and we make it something of the past. But as you can see, as tribal members and as members of institutions, we're survivors. U of A's, every single one will survive. But we must do our part to take care of our future, which is our youth, our students. We pray and we send a blessing to every single member that has lost a friend, family member, or some type of friend that this COVID took over them and beat them. We cannot let that, cannot let our guard down. We have the traditional villages from, like I said, Scottsdale, all the way to the reservation and the 8 villages in Sonora. Aprendimos a hablar español como un mexicano, porque si no aprendíamos a hablar español, también los mataban. le pedimos al Señor que a esos miembros de México, de Sonora, que a los miembros yaquis que viven en ese país, que también hay en el Santo Olivio para que les ayude a sobrevivir esta pandemia. So you see, we have learned how to adapt, and we've survived. So must you. Do the best you can in these halls, in these learning institutions, so someday you can go back, whether it's to your tribe, your city, your state, or your whole nation, and help it survive. Thank you, with many blessings. God bless you, and thank you, Dr. Robbins. Thank you, everybody here at the U of A, for doing this for us and all the tribes. And believe me, all these nations started out as tribes. They are still tribal people within their own nations, because at the UN I have met with indigenous people of Japan, the indigenous people, the Sami from Switzerland, and many, many more. And I've served at that level for the last 4 years on UN mechanisms to try and help preserve our regalia, our lands, our language, and also our way of life. So God bless. Thank you. Con todo favor de Dios, Dios em chokuktesia. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone who's participated, and now I have the privilege of introducing President Robbins. I've only been here at U of A for a couple of months, but one of the highlights that I've had is to engage with our president. And just last week or 2 weeks ago, we had the opportunity to go to Aqchen and visit with their chairman. And I want you to know, Chairman Norris, when you said those words, this is just the beginning. We owe it to you, we owe it to all 22 sovereign nations here, to not only give them a seat at the table, but to listen, to learn, and to interact. And when President Robbins and I were there at Aqchen, it was like we weren't going to leave. The conversation just flowed, and we start to understand one another and how we can collaborate. And that's our goal, President Robbins and my goal, is to understand those from those tribals' perspectives. This is just the beginning of many things that we want to do going forward. And with that, I would like to introduce our president, President Robbins, Bobby, or what I say in my language, Nu Twentum.
Thank you, Levi. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here today. I'd especially like to thank Chairman Norris and Chairman Yukipisio. Not quite right. Yukipisio. Thank you for being here with us, and thank you for your words. And you will always have a place at the table to come and meet. And as soon as this is over, we'll go sit at the table and meet, just like we did with Chairman Miguel for over 2.5 hours the other day. And I'd like to thank you, Karen, for everything you've done. I've been here for 3.5 years, and I know this day is very special for you, and you've put a lot of work into getting us here. And for Levi, for taking a chance and coming down from the hill, Northern Arizona University, to be with us. On behalf of the university, I want to extend my sincere gratitude to the W.E. O'Neill Construction Company for the generous donation of time, labor, and supplies in order to install the tribal flag display. It is beautiful. It will be here in this bookstore for people to see for years to come. I was incredibly honored to sign the proclamation that's displayed here. For you who are watching us online, you can't really see the proclamation, but I was honored to sign that declaring November to be Native American Heritage Month. The display is here for us to read, and hopefully you can see it online as well. I won't read the whole thing, but I do want to emphasize some of the key phrases from the proclamation because they illustrate why it is so important to have this flag installation. Whereas the University of Arizona sits on the ancestral homelands of the Tohono O'odham Nation, and we recognize our Tucson neighbors, the Pascua Yaqui tribe. Whereas the university honors tribal sovereignty and affirms its commitment as a land-grant institution to improve the human condition for the first peoples of Arizona. Whereas Native American students, faculty, and staff members have made major and lasting contributions to the intellectual and social life of the University of Arizona. These are the key reasons why the university is committed to strengthening our relationships with all tribes, and why I'm happy to see them represented here today. Thank you again for joining us for this celebration and this joyous occasion that I agree is too long in coming. And it is only the start. It's only the beginning. And I look forward to continuing to work with all 22 sovereign nations here in Arizona and with all the Native American nations in the U.S. Thank you for being here, and congratulations.
I want to thank you all for attending. Please take some time out just to reflect on the 22 tribal nations that are being represented here. But to know one thing for sure, that each of them have been here from time and all immemorial. And we are as a people that will continue to moving on. I'm grateful that the chairman, you talked about some of the other tribes, because my tribal flag doesn't fly here because I'm from California. But you know what? This is a beginning of recognizing these 22 nations and the 500 plus that currently reside in the United States. Once again, as we leave, we have a small treat for you as we exit out the door. And for the tribal leaders, if you could walk with President Robbins, we just have a little bit of opportunity to spend a little bit more time with you, that seat at the table that we talked about, so we can continue to collaborate and grow and work with one another. And with that, I'll say Topik.